Yes, indeed. That's the program for today. Did Jesus have a dog? I remember the day that my good friend Dick died. Dick, what a wonderful, talented man. Fit as he could be, a hiker, a biker, a golfer, a swimmer, a real athlete, and good and kind, gracious. If ever there was a Christian gentleman, it was Dick. And Dick was a hiker. And one day he was out hiking with his group, and he was appointed to be the sweeper. Now, the sweeper is the person who's really good, and what they do is they circle back to make sure that everybody who is in the hiking circle, in the hiking gang, to make sure everybody at the very end of the line is okay, and to help encouraging them to try and catch up. And just as Dick was doing that, the report is he fell over and dropped dead. The helicopter came, the paramedics came, but Dick was gone. What a shock. His wife, Jeannie, she had no idea. She came home, and there was a police car sitting in front of the house. And that's how and where she received the word. And then the word was passed on to the rest of us. And I remember that when I heard that, I just sat down and I wept. I just cried. Doesn't happen very often, but it did happen the day that Dick died. And you say, Stan, what does that have to do with Jesus and a dog? Well, that's going to be my story on this Friday before Palm Sunday. Did Jesus have a dog? Let's see where that little connection, that little segue might lead us today. I'm Stan Husted. This is the Christian Entrepreneur Network. It sponsors the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience, and that experience starts right now.
Day by day, day by day, oh dear Lord, three things I pray: to see Thee more clearly, love Thee more dearly, follow Thee more nearly, day by day.
And we trust you are doing well, and that you perhaps are taking some time to prepare for the Friday day, which is to prepare a little bit for the future. And, of course, the future brings us to the immediate future of Palm Sunday, the celebration, the remembrance, perhaps in some cases even the commemoration of what is to be, and then the Holy Passion Week, culminating in the resurrection of Jesus the Christ, after a rather gory and gruesome and seemingly tragic experience on Thursday and Friday of that week. There's all kinds of things that you have planned, and most of them, I hope, include not only family and friends and good times, and perhaps eating just a little bit too much for the Easter festival and Easter feast, but also a time to remember and to be resurrected in our own hopes, thoughts, and dreams as we celebrate the resurrection, the continuing resurrection, the continuing coming of Jesus into our lives and into our households, and truly into our entrepreneurial businesses. Yes, Dick. Dick was an entrepreneur, by the way. He had done very, very well. He had begun as a corporate person in an insurance company, but soon realized that on his own he could do far better service and value for his clients and customers and friends, and particularly in the industry in which he had specialized in, which of course was something he loved, the outdoor recreation industry. And so he was very good at what he did, and he had built a successful business, 2 or 3 of them. and now he was semi-retired, but Dick kept busy, both in church and in community affairs, in activity. Everybody loved Dick. Really, if that man had an enemy, I don't know how it could be or who in the world it would be. And Dick was a dog guy. He said, "I cannot ever remember not having a dog." Obviously, in between the gaps when one was gone and the other came in, or perhaps maybe he had two and one survived on, Dick loved dogs. And he always had a dog with him. Wherever you would see him, if it could be, there was Dick and his dog. And part of the sadness, I think you probably know where I'm going with this, is that when Dick didn't come home, the dog started getting worried, started to look around. Jeannie says he looked all around, and then he sat by the door and waited. And whenever a car or a visitor came, he perked up, hoping that Dick was there. And of course, Dick was never going to come back again. And I remember that story, not only of the sadness of Dick, but Dick's wonderful dog, who waited upon his return. You can almost see it and picture it and feel the pathos as that anticipation of the dog turned to deep disappointment, and Dick never returned. Well, I was thinking a lot about that even today, because right after I put this program together, I'm off to a funeral. A friend, a dear friend, she was told that about a year ago that she had 6 months. Well, she said, "I'm ready." And she truly got ready. However, she pressed on, and it took about a year, but just finally, the past week, she passed on, and she is now safe in the arms of Jesus. And we will celebrate her life this Friday afternoon. But that got me to thinking about something that I just wanted to have some fun with. Because I know both my friend Dick and I know my friend Melanie would love for us to remember them. And you know what? Both of them were people who enjoyed life to the fullest. They loved to laugh. They loved to smile. They were good. They were good. Ladies and gentlemen, they were good. That's what they were, a lady and a gentleman. And I was thinking about that, and thinking about the fact that yesterday was National Pet Day. Did you know that? Now, one of the marks of a good marketer or a good communicator, hopefully a good radio person, and we're going to teach you how you can do the radio and make your mark in the marketplace, is you try to connect what is happening. And that got me to thinking, after I picked up Jackson the Wonder Dog from his grooming appointment yesterday on National Pet Day, all of a sudden it hit me. I wonder if Jesus had a dog. I had never had that thought before, but now I did. And one of the things I can perhaps guarantee to you is that as I'm doing this today, this is probably the only time on planet Earth today that somebody is talking about Jesus and a dog. I would be surprised if anybody else is doing that. So part of marketing and connecting and creating a great story is to simply ask the question, hey, what do you think? Did Jesus have a dog? Well, of course, we don't know. There's no record of such a thing. So that means that it will all come down to speculation. And what the speculation will be is something about us, something about what we think of Jesus, and something about what we think of dogs. Now, I'm sure there are a few people who love cats and say, no, but he might have had a cat. And, of course, the dog people will say, no way would Jesus have had a cat. But he certainly would have had a dog. And I remember a fairly heated theological argument one time between a daughter and her pastor father over whether there were dogs in heaven. And she was convinced in her sweet and wonderful way that, my goodness, how could it be heaven without dogs? Well, it was an interesting conversation. A lot of us smiled, and a lot of us were having fun, and we still talk about it. And when that dear pastor passed away, that was one of the points of conversation at the luncheon afterwards, as we talked about the argument over dogs in heaven. Well, like I said, it says something about dogs, it says something about you, and it says something about Jesus. I think he might have. That's because of course, I love dogs. And I think that he smiled a lot. There's just something about it, seemingly, that in that area of the world that he would have been the kind of guy who, would have had a dog and put it in the cart and maybe even take it to work and enjoyed going with long walks. There's something that kind of reminds me that when he took long walks to speak with the Father, that he might have had the dog go along. I've even called my dog at sometimes my prayer partner. Oftentimes on long walks with Jackson, and before that there was Chaucer, and before Chaucer there was Truman. I would pray and talk to God and talk to the dog. And when Truman died, wonderful 175-pound dog, I remember saying that, I learned a lot about God from my dog Truman. And then with a smile I said, if you take dog and spell it backwards, it's God. Dog and God. Well, enough of that. But this is fun, and I just want to ask you to think about that in your picture of yourself. I think some people are going to get real uptight about that, and you know what? That's part of the problem. There are people who are so wound up, so tight about whatever theology they have or their view of is they can't laugh, they can't have fun, they can't smile. They've got to be so serious. And right now, I'm sure there's one person in the audience at least who is having those same feelings, and I'd like to say, lighten up. Because I think Jesus laughed a lot. I think he smiled a lot. I think he might have had a dog. Children don't like to hang around old grouchy, curmudgeon-y sourpusses, like a number of Christians that you and I have all met. Yeah, lighten up. I think Jesus might have had a dog. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. And what kind of dog do you think he might have had? Well, we're just about done. You're busy, so just a short time and well under 20 minutes. That was another conversation. What would Jesus have? Well, he'd have a big dog. No, he'd have a cute little dog. Again, it probably depends on you and what you think of dogs. I think he would have had a rescue dog. And, of course, you get it. That's exactly what he was all about. He came to Earth on a rescue mission. And He paid the price of that rescue. That's what it was all about. Getting ready to pay the price to rescue you and me. And so it wouldn't surprise me that He rescued a dog, perhaps in practice and in provision and perhaps in remembrance of what He was all about. He was on a rescue mission, and He probably chose a rescue dog. Just have some fun with this idea. I oftentimes have said I think it would be fun if somebody would actually write a children's book. Did Jesus have a dog? Or for some of you who love to do perhaps some children's work, maybe we should write a book together called Jesus and His Dog. Obviously, it's a make-believe. It's a story that we are just thinking about and having fun with. But it certainly would perhaps thrill the children, start a conversation, and then a real connection about what we value, and then what we oftentimes lose, and then how we deal with the losses that come into our life. I think there's a lot that we can learn from having a conversation about, did Jesus have a dog? I'm Stan Houston. This is Radio on the Edge. This is the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience. We are brought to you by the Christian Entrepreneur Network at tcenglobal.org, tcenglobal.org. And if you would do /contribute now, I would be grateful. And I am grateful for you. I give thanks upon every remembrance of you. All the best and blessings to you. May it go well for you. May your Palm Sunday, your Holy Week, be filled with grace and glory and good remembrances of what God has done in rescuing you and rescuing me. Bye for now.